Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, The Powerful Man Matthews. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Amelia and I are heading up to the Lake District this evening, actually. And then we're going to be driving to Scotland tomorrow, which will be fun.
That's exciting. I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. You know what it's like, though? I planned next week to just be fully with her and, take the week off work. One, super hard when you love what you do. So hard. Like, I love what we do. I love it. Brings me so much joy. And also, you know what it's like when, being a business owner, things crop up and you're like, I really could do with doing that meeting and this meeting. To her credit, she's like, listen, if you need to do a few things, just do them because you're much better to be with. And you just do the things you need to do. So I'd rather you do those few things, then we can have fun around them as well. Really interesting to hear her take on it.
My wife's the same way, right? When we were planning that trip to Mexico, she's like, look, why don't you just work a few hours every day, get a few things done, and then, as long as it's not all day, I'm good.
Yeah.
The women in our life get us. We like what we do. It's not work out of obligation; it's work out of desire.
It's huge. How are you?
I'm well, man. Doing very well. After this podcast, what I'm going to do is go live into our private Facebook group. So our Facebook group, for those that don't know, we have a private Facebook group that's free, where we provide additional assistance for men that either are in the program or not. We have a private community off of Facebook for guys that have been through our programs, but guys in both mixtures to go there. And so I'll go live in there every week. And so right when we're done with this, I'm going to jump in there and go live. And we've got a bunch of amazing questions from the guys. That group is really growing, Tim. I love seeing the interaction these guys have.
Yes.
And guys are getting some amazing results. And so it's fun to see.
Yeah, I'm just looking in there now as you're talking. It's awesome. I love it. So here's something for you. I have a question which is kind of loaded because I think you're going to give me some answers to this that are really good. I know what I'm looking for. So I was doing some reading this week, and it was all about one of the most important things in a relationship being fulfilling and lasting. And what do you think that one thing might be?
Important things for a relationship to be lasting
lasting and fulfilling, like
friendship.
You hit the nail on the head. Yeah, first time. Nice.
Guys, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Shortest episode ever. Yeah, I was surprised. And initially I had some resistance to it as well. Because I thought friendship, where's the polarity with friendship? Like, you just start having this conversation because obviously there's so many different things that we've learned about in this area, right, over the past few years. So naturally, when you read something, you kind of, I don't know about you, but I put it through my different filters that I've got and all the rest of it with different lessons I've learned. But as I as I stopped resisting, and obviously I resisted it probably because of some truth in where I got to do things a little bit better as well. As I stopped resisting it and I actually read through more of it, it made complete sense. And obviously, part of it goes to the idea of stacking the positive experiences, right? And when you first get into a relationship, it's new, it's exciting. There is a sense of friendship, a sense of companionship, as well as intimacy as well. But for women, especially, usually, in order for them to want to be intimate, the first has to be that connection, right? I remember when I was on a call with Amelia when we're going through some intimacy work. I think I've said this to you before. And the question was, so Tim, when does sex start for you?
I remember that.
Well, as soon as I get hard, like,
yeah.
She's like, okay, yeah. Amelia, when does sex start for you? She's like, well, on a Monday when, and I'm like, Monday? Like, it's not about like sex on the weekend. It starts on the Monday. It starts with nurturing that connection and, checking in with each other at the end of the day and then going on a walk, during the week and just feeling connected. That's when she feels she wants to be the most intimate. And yeah, I was just curious because I read it and I got the impression the people listening, it's not the first thing I don't think a lot of people would say. I don't think friendship would be the first thing that would that would come to mind. I think people might say intimacy or maybe even respect, but not friendship.
Well, yeah, to be fair, I've been studying and coaching this for over a decade. So it's, it'd be like asking, an engineer something about engineering that that non-engineer wouldn't
101.
know. Yeah. And it is interesting when you think about it. What happens for a lot of couples and relationships is as those scales start to tip. Now, we talk about the scales a lot for those that haven't heard it, right? Think of a balance beam scale, right? Or scale of justice where you have two sides. And when you first start dating, right, the scales are tipped in your favor with the good experiences and feelings heavily outweighing the bad ones. And over time, there starts to become more friction. Those scales start to move, and you move into almost the friend zone, so to speak, in the sense that you're not having sex. But really, what's happening is you just don't even like each other at times. And for a lot of guys, even the questions I'm looking at for today, some of the wives tell the guys, I friggin' hate you. That's not what you tell your friend, right? And we start taking things so personally things that you wouldn't, you just roll off your back if a friend said it, but you take it so personally from your partner that your friendship diminishes.
Mm,
So as an example, if my wife and I are fighting, let's say I didn't have the tools that the powerful man is giving me, my wife and I are fighting, and you know she, she says something to me that you might say, Doug, you're late for this podcast or whatever. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm sorry, apologize, and when we just go on. But my wife and I are fighting, and she says, hey, you're late. I
mhm.
might start going into deer mode of defending, excusing, explaining, reacting, right? And go right into, well, I had to get this for the kids and do all of that. And I get mad at her, and then it escalates because our triggers
Yeah.
are triggered by our partners. Whereas our friends, we give them much more leeway, right? We give them much more bandwidth, so to speak. And you can still have
Yeah.
polarity in that friendship, right? Because even friendships have polarity in them. Even male friendships have polarity.
Mhm. Yeah. I think as well, look, it's obvious, right? In order for a friendship to develop, it has to be nurtured, right? And this goes to the point of the previous podcast. Yeah, I think in a relationship, complacency can often set in as well. And especially when there's a marriage and there's kids, because it's almost like, oh well, we're married, so it's harder to walk away sometimes, right? And I often wonder, I often think about this for Amelia and I. In some respects, you know, yeah, I often wonder because in some respects it can be harder, or would it be harder? Would you have to work harder to stay together if marriage wasn't a thing, right? Because in theory, it's easier to walk away, right? So if it's easier to walk away, therefore you work harder to have the choice. I mean, that's not the point I wanted to address here, but the point I'm making is complacency. Yeah, it sets in, and
Yeah.
as a result, a friendship, you're gonna arrange to go and do something fun with your friend. Right, we're going to Mexico again in June. I think November Mexico, March Costa Rica, June Mexico.
When Tim says we,
It's
he's
great.
talking about he and I, not you and Amelia, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're going to Mexico again. Um, and we work online, so we want to do something fun together, right? Because our relationship, our friendship is important. So we want to make the most of our time together. So we're going to put the effort into planning something and doing something fun so we can have fun, create memories, and so on. So with a friendship, there's intention, right? There's effort. Whereas oftentimes in a relationship, in a marriage, especially when complacency sets in, the friendship isn't really, it gets disregarded. The level of priority that goes towards actually carving out some quality time. Let's say it's a date night, right? There's a difference between going on a date night and just planning something last thing than actually planning something that's a fuck yes, and you rocking up to date night looking good, like wearing clothes that you feel good in, that fit you well. You've been working out, you're well groomed, like you're rocking up to date night, and because it means something, you're prioritizing that. Imagine the the example that sets and what that conveys to your wife when you're giving that level of importance to the moment in the week when you guys are together. That nurtures a friendship. But I think people miss a trick with realizing that how important friendship is, and it's got to be prioritized. It's not good enough to just sit on the sofa together in an evening and watch Netflix,
No,
and that's all you guys do together. It's not good enough to just be at home and have your date be at home. That's not going to maintain a friendship. You want to do something fun, something exciting, something adventurous, something new, and at times chill out too.
well, that's the thing, right? Again, I'm going to use this because people keep talking to me about it. Is my guess is that most men know what's new going on in Elon Musk's life right now than they know what's new going on in their wife's life.
Yep.
And it's because they're reading about it, they're intrigued with what he's doing, and they don't have that same level of interest or intrigue with what their wife is doing because they make the assumption that they know it already. And that's not true, right? Your wife is changing just like you are. Your wife is
Hmm.
changing in ways that you don't even know. And most men don't take the time to investigate that, to find out what's going on. Not only is she having changes in thoughts, but she's having changes in hormones as she gets older. She's going to be different on her menstrual cycle at different times. All kinds of things are thrown into those elements. And she probably doesn't even know some of those things. So, a friendship, right? So, when I talk to you, Tim, or if I talk to another friend, you always ask, hey, what's new? What's going on? And you kind of get in their world, unless you just have those remember when friends where you just talk about the past. But how often do you get to do this with your wife? And you and Amelia had a great exercise where you sit down in the evening and do a check-in where you
Hmm.
collect her berries essentially, as we talk about, and you ask her, like, what's going on? I don't remember the exact questions you use, but the ones that I use that are similar is I talk to my wife about what's the best thing that happened in your day? How was your day? What's going on for you? And I'll check in with her. How's your mom? Which is a very important issue for her because her mom's not doing well. And I'll ask her other questions that are going on there too. And I'm
Mm.
getting into her world. What are you reading about? What are you studying? What show are you watching? What books are you reading? And we
Yeah.
have conversations around those things.
Yeah, we recently changed. We do a weekly check-in, and the way we were doing it before was good, but the questions just were a bit too mechanical. They weren't very conversational. Some of the language that we were given to try it with, so we shifted it up and just made it simple, but it's way more conversational, and it opens up way more avenues for friendship.
Yeah.
What were you win? What were your wins this week? Like personally, outside the relationship, like what were your wins? I always learn something about when she tells me what her wins were for the week. Like, wow, I didn't. Some of the things I knew happened, but I didn't realize how important they were to her. She's
Yeah.
considering that thing a win. What were the wins in the relationship? Again, we'll both share some of the things she shares. I'm like, oh, I forgot that. Yeah, you're right. That was huge. And vice versa. We just get to play in each other's world a bit. What's one thing you appreciate about me this week? Vice Same thing, right? And it's great because it takes five positives to outweigh a negative, right? If you have one, let's say you have a blow up fight with your wife, and you guys are just going at each other. She's not listening to you. You're asking her to go away. You walk into another room. She follows you, and you're just like, get away. So you leave. And maybe you don't talk for the rest of the day. Maybe you sleep in different beds. Usually, to outweigh that one negative experience, it's going to take about five positive ones, right? But this could be five positive interactions. So, for example, this check-in, right? Just by coincidence, there are five questions. That's five opportunities for us to connect and go a little bit deeper with each other and work on the friendship, right? So that one thing you appreciate about me and vice versa, helps to train us to just reflect and see the things we appreciate about each other as well. 'Cause it's so easy to always see the things that haven't been done, or the way in which you've been annoyed, or the way in which they didn't clean up after themselves, or they criticize you for not taking the trash out, or not washing your plate, whatever it is, right? It's very easy for those things to cloud. But if you let them cloud, just like in any friendship, there isn't going to be a friendship, because that person is just going to start to annoy you. You're going to see the messages come through. You're probably not going to want to read them. You're probably going to get back to them maybe the day after. You're going to let the relationship, the friendship, you let it fade. There's a few other questions as well that I won't go into, but got to work on the friendship. Got to nurture it.
You got to. And, I think the scripted questions are great to start with. But guys, add some other ones in there. One thing that I did, Tim, many years ago is I bought several things called the Book of Questions. There's the If book came out later.
Mhm.
Table Topics is something that we use. But I'll ask my wife regularly, like, what's your dream vacation right now? And I use the word right now because it's change. It changes with the seasons, with what her interests are, with our kids. But get into her
Mhm.
world, guys. Get into like, if we had an extra 100K sitting in the bank, what would you want to do with it?
Mhm.
Right. And you can even say, what's something you'd want to buy that's just completely not practical at all? Or what's something you'd want to get really good at that you're trying to learn? Your wife may say relationships,
Mm.
right? She may do that. My wife's decided she's going through a really advanced course on relationships, on men and women and their interactions right now. And she shares with me when I ask her just gold nuggets that I can apply to the guys. It's absolutely fantastic from a woman's point of view. And she waits for me to talk and bring it up, right? So I have to nurture that friendship portion of a relationship. And there's the other side of it, of course, which is nurturing other aspects of a relationship, which is the intimacy, which is the polarization, as you were talking about earlier. But there's very practical things that you can do, guys, to
Mhm.
nurture that, but you got to do them. Knowing
Yeah,
about
big
them and
time.
not doing is worse than just not knowing and not doing. But now there's things that you can do. You got to take action. Like, what are you
Mhm.
doing to invest in that? What questions? And when I say invest, it doesn't always have to be just financially, but investments in time,
No.
investments in energy. What questions can you ask your wife?
Yeah. Just thinking about again, well, you guys think about when you first got together, right? There will have been a bit of banter. Do you use that word in the US, Doug? Banter.
Yep, we
Yeah.
sure do.
So so there will have been a bit of banter, right? Going back and forth, a bit of fun, a bit of lightness, a bit of play. Just like there typically is in a friendship, right? But a lot of guys, they stopped doing that. And I think they stopped, well, I know they stopped doing it because part of the reason anyway, they they just get afraid of rejection too.
That's exactly
They
what it
get
is.
yeah.
And they don't have the tools in their toolkit, right, to bounce back from that rejection. So they go into deer mode.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
have a methodology that's going to allow them to stay out of deer and go into wolf. And so
Yeah.
therefore they're constantly scared and walking on eggshells.
And the guy at the gym that grabs her attention is the guy that has the banter. He's not better than you. He's just bringing some light. He's nurturing the friendship side of it as well. It's super easy for you to do. Like you said, the practical steps with the questions doesn't have to be anything major. I think if you didn't listen to the last episode, the one before this, I definitely go back and listen to that because I think that pre-frames this. It feeds into it very nicely because you're going to get clear on where you are today within how much you're investing in your relationship slash friendship. And from there, again, and I always say it all the time, Doug loves to say at the moment of insight, take action. If this is ringing true for you right now and you're realizing, oh, wow, it's as simple as that, like friendship, that's the number one thing for a fulfilling, lasting relationship. And you're realizing you're not doing it, what do you get to do right now? What question can you go and ask your wife right now? In fact, let me just bring this up. I'm going to read a few questions out. I took the guys in the Brotherhood last week, Doug, through the training during office hours, as you know. actually shared with them a list of 100 questions they could ask their partner to get to know them a little bit better, to deepen the connection. And there was some great ones on there. One that I liked, which opened up a good conversation between Amelia and I, was when are you most attracted to me?
What'd she say?
Obviously, at first she said, well, when you get out of the shower and you dress nice and you're smelling nice and you're looking good. Then she went, actually, no, it's not. It's not that at all. It's when you're funny and you're playful and you you're just there and you've been funny and playful and we're just having a laugh and you're paying attention to me. Super simple. It's like when I asked her, I can't remember how it came up in conversation a long time ago, but what does she admire about me the most? And I thought she was going to say, oh, the lifestyle you've provided for us. I'm so appreciative. I had this story in my head. I thought this is going to be great. I thought, oh, the fact you can make me laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I love that you can make me laugh so easily.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, eye opener. But again, it goes to friendship piece.
That's awesome.
For some reason I can't find the masterclass.
That's okay. We'll bring it up. I'll tell you what, guys, we'll have Tim post some of these questions in the Facebook group coming through. But what I want to know is, guys, what are you going to do? What are you going to do here to take insight? Are you going to ask your wife questions? Are you going to get off the fence? Are you going to go from deer to wolf mode and nurture your friendship, right? Have a friendship with your wife that's going to be long lasting. And just like any other relationship or friendship, if bridges have been burnt, or, the bridges can be rebuilt, right? They can be rebuilt with the right tools and the right time to do so. So, Tim, I love you bringing this to the table as always. Great insight in doing it. Gentlemen, as always, in the Moment Insight, take massive action. We'll see you next time on the Powerful Man Show.